Let's be clear. You have been manipulated throughout your entire life. They have made you believe that your desire is your identity, that your impulse defines your purpose, that your appetite dictates who you are. But listen to me carefully, that narrative is not yours. They have implanted it in you like an invisible thorn that directs every one of your movements without you even noticing. And the worst part, you have accepted it. You have become a smiling slave, a prisoner who believes he is in control. Do you know what the most dangerous thing about all this is? They have convinced you that if you are not constantly chasing pleasure, you are dead. That if you don't have sexual validation, you are worth nothing. Have you ever wondered why? Because a man who lives trapped in his desire is the easiest to control. While you are chasing bodies, you are forgetting your soul. While you obsess over impressing others, they are building empires. Here's where it gets intriguing. What I'm about to tell you goes against everything they have taught you. You don't need to give up desire. What you need is to turn it into a weapon. Master it. Desexualizing your mind doesn't mean turning it off. It means redirecting it, transforming your energy from external conquest into internal mastery. What I want to show you is not abstinence, it's transmutation. And that, my friend, is the secret they don't want you to discover. The desexualized mind is the greatest weapon of the modern man, because a man who is not manipulated by his instinct is unpredictable, and the unpredictable is dangerous. Have you ever been in a room where everyone follows the flow and suddenly someone comes in who doesn't play that game? You don't know whether to fear him or admire him, but you know, one thing, that guy has power, and you don't know why. I'll tell you, because his will is not hijacked. Think about it. How many decisions in your life have been influenced by the need to be liked? How many paths did you not take out of fear of not being enough for someone? How many times did you sacrifice your time, your money, your energy, just for a chance at validation? Each of those times you lost a part of yourself, and you did it willingly. That's the worst part. You did it smiling, believing it was freedom. But listen to this. The desexualized mind is not a cold mind. It is a mind that burns but does not burn out. It is a mind that observes desire, understands it, respects it, but does not serve it. It is not a slave, it is a strategist. And at that point, when desire stops being a tyrant and becomes a servant, the game changes. Let me take you to a dark place. Imagine this: a man who has spent his whole life seeking approval through the body. He lives to be liked. He trains, dresses, goes into debt, all for that external glance. And when he gets it, he feels like he has won something. But that something disappears in minutes, because it was never real, because it was never his. And then the cycle starts again. Do you know what that's called? Addiction, but disguised as self-love, success, masculinity. Here comes the question that will make you uncomfortable. If tomorrow no one could desire you, would you still feel you're worth something? If the answer is no, you're screwed, because you have built your identity on quicksand. And with every passing second, you sink deeper. The solution: desexualize your mind. Separate your value from your validation. Return to yourself. Restart. But of course, this is not comfortable, because it means killing a part of you. A part that has been fed since you saw your first advertisement, since you received your first compliment, since they told you that a real man conquers. But a real man conquers himself. And for that, you need a free mind. A mind that doesn't react, but decides. That doesn't crawl, but chooses. Do you want to know why great leaders, great thinkers, great creators have an almost supernatural aura? Because their minds are desexualized. Not because they don't have desire, but because they have mastered it. They have turned their energy into action, their drive into vision, their hunger into legacy. While the rest of the world chases bodies, they chase eternity. Let's go deeper, because psychology doesn't lie. Freud already said it: sexual energy, if not wasted, can be sublimated. Do you know what that means? That the very force that drags you to the abyss can take you to Olympus. That if you learn to contain your fire, you can build with it. That if you stop reacting, you can start creating. That is alchemy, psychological, mental, human. You'll ask, how do you do that? It's not done in a day. It's a war against yourself. Every time you feel compelled to impress, stop. Ask yourself, for what? Every time you feel the need for validation, breathe and observe the void, because that's where the trap is. We've been trained to flee from the void, but the void is not the enemy. The void is the space where you can rebuild yourself. The desexualized mind is dangerous because it doesn't need. And when you don't need, you don't beg. And when you don't beg, no one can use you. At that point, you become free. Do you know what it's like to walk down the street without trying to be liked? It's like walking above the noise. It's like being in a world where everyone screams, but you move silently. And silence scares because it reveals, because it makes people uncomfortable, because it shows that you are no longer in the game, you are above it. Do you want to know why many will attack you when you start this path? Because you will remind them how weak they are, because you will show them there is another way. And that hurts. Those who crawl can't stand seeing someone standing, and they will try everything. They will ridicule your silence. They will mock your self-control. They will call you cold, weird, distant, because you are taking away their excuse. Because while you were a slave, everyone was comfortable. But when you free yourself, the reflection is unbearable. That is where loneliness begins, because this path is not popular. It is not celebrated. It is not rewarded. But it is felt deep down in the marrow like an unbreakable certainty, like an internal axis that doesn't move, even if everything around shakes. That is the strength of the desexualized mind. It doesn't have to prove anything. It just exists. And its existence alone changes the environment. But here comes the worst part. The real enemy is not outside, it's inside. It's your own voice telling you that you can't, that it's not worth it, that it's easier to play the game. That voice is the one you have to kill because it's not yours. It's the voice of the world speaking through your mouth. You have to silence it, not with screams, but with actions, with discipline, with a will sharp as a blade. One day will come if you do this work when you look back and don't recognize who you were, because the you from before was programmed, and the you now is awake. And that awakening is brutal because you see everything. You see those who crawl, you see the strings of manipulation, you see the chains, and you simply walk, not because you're better, but because you chose something almost no one chooses: control. So the next time you feel tempted to seek validation, stand in front of the mirror and look at yourself. Not your physique, not your clothes. Look at yourself for real and ask yourself who's in charge. If the answer isn't you, you're not free yet. But if you can say with your head held high that you're the one who decides, then you've arrived. You've broken the cycle. You've crossed the border. And there's no turning back. That, my friend, is power. That is freedom. That is what they fear. Now we're going to open an even deeper door, because if the desexualized mind is the weapon, there is one question you can't avoid. Who are you really fighting against? Most think it's against others, against society, against culture, against external noise. And yes, in part it is. But the real enemy, the most dangerous of all, is emotional conditioning, that invisible system that makes you react without thinking. That has linked pleasure to approval, self-esteem to desire, and your identity to the echo of a gaze. Let's talk about affective conditioning, that psychological trap that has warped your way of relating to the world, to yourself, to your goals. Because desire is not born pure. It gets contaminated, it is educated, it is manipulated. Since childhood you have been taught that love is earned, that value is measured by attention received, that whoever is not desired does not exist. Result: a divided man eternally hunting himself in the eyes of others. But affective conditioning goes beyond sexual desire. It's deeper. It's in how you talk to yourself, how you decide, how you tolerate silence. It's that anxiety you feel when no one writes to you. That feeling of emptiness when you don't receive an external sign that you exist. That is not desire, that is addiction to reflection. And a man addicted to reflection is blind to his inner reality. The desexualized mind is also the mind that has broken with reflection, that has stopped looking for itself outside, that has learned to be alone without feeling empty. Because here comes the brutal truth. It's not loneliness that scares you. It's what you hear when you face it. It's the internal noise. It's the echo of all the insecurities you tried to cover with distractions. Do you know why so many men fail in silence? Because they don't know how to inhabit it. Because silence doesn't lie. Silence doesn't flatter. Silence doesn't return a distorted image of yourself. Silence shows you what you really are, and that's why you flee from it. That's why you run toward desire, toward noise, toward anything that covers that pure reflection. But here's the twist in that silence is your power. In that unfiltered mirror is the truth you have so long avoided. Because when you stop reacting, you start observing. And when you observe without need, you see the game body language hidden, intentions, projected emotions, and you from your center do not react. You calculate, you analyze, you act. You are no longer the emotional player. You are the chess player. Because the desexualized mind is not a dead mind. It is a strategic mind, and the world is a chessboard. Now let's go further to the root, the validation instinct. That blind impulse that many confuse with passion. It's not passion. It's disguised fear. It's need. It's emotional dependence disguised as desire. And that makes you weak. A dependent man, even if dressed in steel, bleeds inside. And the world smells the blood. The question you should ask yourself is not, how do I conquer? But why do I need to conquer? Because if the root of your action is lack, everything you build will be contaminated. Everything will be fragile, unstable. And the modern man, the one who wants to be free, cannot afford that fragility. He cannot afford to depend on someone else's smile to feel alive. This leads us to a concept very few understand: emotional autonomy. The mental state in which you stop begging for energy and start generating it. The moment when your mood stops depending on the outside. Do you know how many people are emotionally broken for not having cultivated this autonomy? They live hanging on the next validation. Their peace depends on whether they get a reply or not. Their self-esteem fluctuates with likes. That is not life, that is digital slavery. Emotional autonomy is being able to leave without drama. It's being able to say no without guilt. It's not needing to impress to feel complete. It's not depending on someone else's desire to exist. When you reach that point, you notice it. People start sensing something different in you. They don't know what it is, but they feel it, and they get unsettled because they can't buy you. They can't manipulate you. They can't use you. And that in a world full of masks is a threat. But be careful, don't confuse autonomy with isolation. It's not about not connecting. It's about connecting from fullness, not from need. A complete man doesn't give himself out of fear of being alone. He gives himself by choice. And that changes everything, because love that is born of choice is freedom. The one born of lack is a cage. Now let's talk about focus, because all this energy you're redirecting needs a destination. The desexualized mind does not empty itself. It reinvests in creation, in purpose, in presence, in depth. Because here comes another uncomfortable secret: desire distracts. And when you master it, life slows down. You become more aware, more focused, more present. And that's when you see what others don't see. That's when you discover opportunities invisible to the rest. A focused man is not intense. He is precise. He is selective. And in a world where everyone is scattered, the one who masters his focus wins. Do you know what the real superpower is in this era of constant stimuli, sustained attention? The ability to be present without fleeing, without getting distracted, without seeking immediate pleasure. That is what separates empire builders from smoke consumers. But here's the most powerful thing: the man who desexualizes his mind does not stop feeling. He starts feeling everything more clearly. Because by filtering out the noise, perception sharpens. His intuition becomes more precise, his judgment more accurate, his presence more powerful. He no longer speaks to please, he speaks to transform. He no longer acts to impress, he acts to impact. And that, my friend, is the real revolution. A mind that no longer reacts like an animal, but responds like an architect of its own existence. A mind that doesn't need applause because it feeds on purpose. A mind that doesn't beg for connection because it is complete in itself. The world is not ready for men like this, because they are impossible to manipulate, because they don't buy what's sold, because they don't fit in molds. But you are not here to fit in. You are here to break the pattern, to deactivate the system from within, to be the anomaly that proves it is possible to live free, that it is possible to feel without depending, that it is possible to be intense without losing control. That is your role. That is your path. The desexualized mind is not the end. It is the beginning of a new way of being in the world, of a new way of inhabiting your body, your mind, your time, of a new way of loving, without begging, creating without permission, existing without chains. And when you get to that point, you will understand why all this pain was worth it. Because you won't be surviving anymore. You will be truly living without need, without mask, without fear, just you and your will of steel. Now we reach the edge, not of this message, but of the abyss. Because if you've come this far, it's no accident. There is something inside you that has already awakened. Something that has been knocking from within for a long time, asking to come out, asking for liberation. This is not just a talk, this is a mirror, and you know it, because while others keep running from themselves, you are here face to face with your most brutal truth. I want you to understand this: the desexualized mind is not a trend, not a pose, not a pretty philosophy to decorate your social media. It is a declaration of war, a silent war, against everything that has kept you chained, against every mental chain you mistook for a caress, against every impulse you confused with freedom. This is not about repression, it's about choice, about taking total control, about nothing, absolutely nothing dictating who you are. Do you know why this ending is not really an ending? Because what begins now is the hardest part. Applying, putting into practice, living what you just understood. And that's where many fall, because understanding makes you feel strong, but holding that understanding day to day, that transforms you. That makes you one of the few who can truly look the world in the eyes without lowering their head. At that point, I warn you of something. You will lose things, people, habits, spaces where you no longer fit. The price of freedom is that you cannot carry everything with you. But what you gain will be greater than any loss. You will gain clarity. You will gain peace. You will gain an identity that doesn't need to be made up every morning. You will gain the power to need nothing, and from there you can build everything. The desexualized mind is not only the greatest weapon of the modern man, it is the ultimate one. Because in a world designed to keep you hungry, distracted and dependent, the man who masters his own appetite becomes ungovernable. He becomes dangerous not through aggression, but through autonomy. He becomes powerful not through domination, but through self-possession. This is your invitation to psychological revolution. Not the gentle kind that asks you to think more positively, but the radical kind that demands you face the uncomfortable truth you have been living as a slave to forces you were taught to worship. Your desires, your needs, your compulsions, they were never yours. They were installed, programmed, and maintained by a system that profits from your weakness. But you are not weak. You never were. You were simply asleep. And now you're waking up. And when you're fully awake, when you've desexualized your mind and reclaimed your power, you'll walk through this world as a free man in a prison planet. You'll see the bars everyone else calls normal. You'll hear the chains everyone else calls success, and you'll simply smile and continue building your empire of one. The revolution begins within, and it begins now, not tomorrow when you feel more prepared, not next week when circumstances are better, but now in this moment when you realize that everything you thought you needed was actually everything that was destroying you. Welcome to freedom, welcome to power, welcome to yourself.